let's start from the beginning. Where and when were you born?
I was born July the 17th, 1945 in Memphis, Tennessee at John Gaston Hospital.
What was that area like? What was Memphis like at that time?
Ooh, you really want to go there? Memphis was hell at that time. Okay, don't let the sun go down on you at 5 o'clock. Okay, and if there's two of you people of the darker persuasion want to be on one side of the street and the other one be on the other side of the street.
Oh.
It was rough then.
Oh, so was it like super racially charged, or that's just
yes.
the way it was?
That's just the way it was. That was the way of life. That's what everybody knew.
What was your relationship with your dad like?
Ooh. There was no relationship between me and my dad. However, my dad was a very gifted person. He could do anything. And I learned a couple of things from him that I have to give him credit for, like carry yourself in a manner, this isn't his words, but this is what he meant. Carry yourself in a manner that you will command respect and you will get respect because you can't demand respect. The other thing is never say no. Don't say I can't. I said I can't. So never ever say I can't. I inherited a lot of his skills. I have to give him credit for that. But other than that, I think I was too much like him. So we weren't. I was stubborn. My father was stubborn. And at a very, very young age, he was trying to break me. And when he would often say, Dan Jr. will not lie to me. And I didn't. I was scared to death. Then why the hell did he beat my ass? Because in the South, if an adult say you did something, you're guilty as charged.
Facts.
You're guilty. And then there's another one. Don't leave your yard. I couldn't even put my foot on the sidewalk. You had to stay in the yard. Okay. Being a free spirit, I kind of challenged some of that. And I usually lost the war. So I remember one time, he said, Dan Jr., get your ass over here. Why did you pull Miss Maggie's, whatever her name was, flowers up? I said, I didn't pull her flowers up. No, unfortunately, I had a schoolmate. His name was James Lenore, and we were both light-skinned and red hair. Okay. And we looked similar, but I was tall and thin, and he was a little short and stockier. Okay. But I can't see how people often did. So he was the one to pull up the flowers. So he took me down to, I wish I could remember the lady's name, but it don't matter. Yeah, that's him. So my father said, tell me the truth. I said, I didn't do it. I'm going to beat you till you tell me the truth. Tell me the truth and I will beat you. Did you do it? No. So he beat my butt right there. He loves to perform. So wherever you commit the crime is where your punishment started. I don't know what happened, but one day, no, that was the same. He took me home. We were in the living room. And he hit me with that switch, the one of them willow switches, the one that cracked like a whip. That sucker hit me when it rang down to my bottom of my toes and jarred my ancestors in Africa. I went, oh, no. I jumped up in there, jumped on. My mother had a sofa, came from the famous Sam Bell. I jumped up on her, sprung up in there, came across his lip. I can remember that egg sound. He tastes his blood. Oh, shit, I shouldn't have done that. He took me in a room, threw my butt on the floor, stuck it in those brogans that they used to wear between my jawbone and my shoulder. Beat the shit out of me. So I was too much like him, and he always said, I'm going to break you, I'm going to break you, I'm going to break you. And the last, one of the other beatings I got, I don't know what I was charged for, but I wouldn't cry. And he went, oh, you ain't going to cry, huh? So he it became more intense. So the whole battle between him and it wasn't about right and wrong. And I said, I ain't gonna cry. So he kept beating me, I wouldn't cry, and he stopped. And he looked at my face and he went, "You'd kill me if you had a chance." I went, "Yep." That was the first time. So whenever we started having confrontations after that, they grew more and more intense. So oil and water, we just did not mix.
Did you ever feel loved by him?
No.
He never said
He can't even spell love. Love to him was a misunderstanding between two damn fools.
What was your relationship with your mom like?
Mom always had these unique phrases that would always comfort me. I was never hugged. I was never kissed. I was never told I love you. Matter of fact, I never saw her kiss her husband. So love is a thing that I don't know nothing about. But she had her ways of showing that she cared. And she had ways of showing that she cared about me. And it's just a thing. I remember her saying, "Dan, you want some hot chocolate?" And I remember hot chocolate, the way she would make it from the baker's baking chocolate that came in the brown cakes and make hot chocolate from scratch. Yeah, Gertrude was really, really, really special. You just knew.
Did you ever hear her say she loved you?
No.
So you never heard that when you
Never.
were young?
Never.
Okay, what was the relationship like between your mother and your father?
Listen, my mother got up every morning, 4 o'clock. And it's one thing to this day, I love the smell of brewing coffee. She got up and fixed them breakfast, and coffee be brewing. I can always wake up, I smell so. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I had to have coffee brewing in the house to feel normal. She cooked, she cleaned, she did the normal things, but I never saw any example, never hug, never a kiss, none of that. Okay, so they weren't Ozzie and Harriet by any stretch of the imagination.
So Gertrude, my grandmother, showed love through cooking for you, taking care of you in that way. It wasn't verbal or by touch. It was
No, sometimes the way she would say things, because she would always say that I had to learn patience. She'd always say, "You and your dad don't get along. And this is his house." So she would tell me, as long as you're going to live in this, there's a message there. This is his house. So I left at 7. I left before that. I left at 16 and stayed with a neighbor. I joined the Army at 17.
How many siblings do you have? How many girls and how many boys?
Thelma was the oldest daughter, Shirley, Earlice, me, and Eugene. Now, I have some half-brothers. Did you want those too? I had 2 half-brothers, Moat and Sidney. Tucker from my mother's previous marriage before she married and my sister Carol.
Who were you the closest to out of your siblings?
Thelma. Thelma's my heart. We look alike, we sound alike. We all just always had a special bond. It was amazing. Like Mama, when I left, I had no intentions of ever going back to Memphis for any reason other than to visit Mom. And Thelma lived in Detroit at the time. And what would be amazing that if she would show up in Memphis, within 2 or 3 hours, I would show up. If I showed up in Memphis, without talking to each other, she would show up. So it was always amazing how our clock to this day were close like that.
Actually, that reminds me of something that you told me about your mother, that she seemed to have an intuition about her. Because you seem to have some of that as well.
I have a little, but I don't have recall. My mother could tell you what was going to happen to you on a daily basis. She could wake up and say, "Make sure you don't do this, don't do that, or do this or do that." She could predict the future in detail. And that was always amazing. She'd get one of those premonitions, and she said, I told you. Sometimes she would tell you not to do something, and it could be in the future. It didn't necessarily have to be that day. I told you not to do that. Now, how I inherit some of that is I don't have recall like some of my siblings, where they can wake up in the morning and say, I dreamed this last night, and this is going to happen. I don't have that ability. I would have to go on, and then something would happen. Something will look familiar, the action to take me from me around. Oh, I dreamed this. And it could be days, weeks, months, even years later. I didn't have the ability to recall like Eugene and Thelma and Shirley, as an example I had. But yeah, my mother could tell you on a daily basis, and she's never, ever been wrong. Okay, it's just one of those things. She didn't look for you to change, didn't try to control your life or anything. But she would let you know she could read you like a book.
I want to add this because Ronnie will see this in the future. But Ronnie, when I lived with her, Ronnie actually had that. And when I was even up to when I was an adult, she would tell me or Vanessa or the girls, hey, don't go over there today. I have a feeling something's going to happen every single time. And we would get so scared because she was always on the money. She'd be like, hey, maybe don't go over there with that person. I remember we were young, and she would do that here and there throughout the months. And she was always right. And so she inherited that from her grandmama.
Well, there you go. You told me before that you started working at a young age. How did that happen? And what kind of work were you doing?
Okay, I was 8 years old, and I made the mistake of asking my father for a nickel. And he went, where am I going to get it? I went, out your pocket. Don't you get smart with me. So I said to myself, I ain't never going to ask you for nothing else as long as I live. Pearson's Grill was a beer garden that was in front of the house, And I got a job there at 8 years old delivering beer. So when I got out of school, I'd go to work there, deliver beer, whatever, stock the free, not the freezer, but the coolers and what have you for beer. Do my homework there, and I would get out at 1 o'clock and get up and go to school. So that was great because I didn't come in contact with the family or anything. But I started working at 8, and I bought all of my clothes and everything I needed. I asked for nothing. I didn't come in contact with any of the family, really. Okay.
And your parents had no issues with you working?
No, baby. Why? That's one that's damn they have to spend, particularly when you're buying your own clothes, you're buying your own food, you're doing this. I'm saving them money. If you'd ever noticed growing up, I don't like to hide my stuff. You know how people take and hide I hate that. I hate that. I should not have to hide my money or jewelry or something in my own house. Dan Taylor wouldn't steal from anybody else, but he'd damn sure steal from his kids. So I'm working at Gray's Sundry. And I was only making $10, $12 a week, plus you can add the little tips, the little nickel and dime. I could probably say I make $20, $30, $40 during the course of a weekend in tips, okay? And when I would come home, we had the back bedroom with a twin-post bed. I used to hang my pants over that post. My father used to come in and steal my money. Now, Dan Taylor wasn't one of these take a little, leave a little. He was one who'll take it all and leave nothing. Yeah, so, and I, well, why don't you, I just didn't understand. I was so stubborn, I couldn't understand why I should have to hide my money. And I would ask Dad, you taking the money out of my pocket? No, Junior. If I need anything, I'd ask you for it. I knew he was lying. He knew he was lying. And the good Lord knew he was lying. I'm still stubborn. To this day, I resent having to hide money. It's one thing, I never went through anybody's things. You know, I'm not going to go through. If my wife said, "Get that out of my pocketbook," I'll bring her pocketbook to her. I will not go on. I won't go on anybody's. Just don't believe in it. It's invading privacy. So that's a quirk that I have that I still have to this day, as asinine as it is.
Well, his dishonesty seemed to push you more into honesty and being open. So
Well, you can say that, I guess. I never
that's
thought of it
that's
that
how we
way.
go around it.
I never thought of it that way, but okay.
How did you get from where you were to the military? What was that process?
At age 17, I knew I was never going to stay home. Okay. I knew what I wanted, and the home life I had was not it. The day I turned 17, I went down. 3 of my best friends that I was in school all went down and took the test for the Army. I was the only one to pass. So I meant to be with my friends and ended up being alone anyhow. So I joined the Army. I wanted to be, I was very good at drafting, mechanical drafting, architectural drafting. And I wanted to be a draftsman. So they came in and said, well, you take the battery of tests and you can qualify. They send me in as unassigned. So they send a lot of people in when they have critical MOSs that they could not fill. They would take those people who have the aptitude.
MOS?
Military Occupational Specialty.
Okay.
So I qualified for guided missiles. Okay, so they stuck me into that. So I left Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and went to Connecticut. And I stayed in the Army from 1962 to 1964. The Nike Hercules program was being phased out, and they were bringing in new missiles, okay? So the National Guard started taking over the military base in Ansonia, Connecticut. You know, we had bases all over Connecticut. I just happened to be stationed in Connecticut. And my last year was spent in Seattle, Washington, okay? When I got out of the Army in Seattle and my ETS came in Washington, I applied for a job at the Nike site because I trained a lot of those people that was there and got hired. And of course, I stayed there until they closed the site down completely. So I went in and out of the military. Then I had like a 3-year break, 71, 2, and 3. I had a little break. And then I went back, went on force to be during that break, I went to the police department, stayed on the police department for a while. You can't have morals and values and be on the police department. You want people that's going to do what they're told, so you can't have common sense. So as much as I loved it, as much as the chief of police loved me, because I trained dogs and brought dogs to the police department, along with Jerry Lowe, who trained me. I was terminated from the police department. I went back to the military, where I stayed until I retired. I retired July 1st, 2005, for a total of 40 years, 2 months, and 15 or 16 days. Got to be a special kind of masochist to put up with that shit that long.
You retired the year I graduated high school.
Yeah. You were at my retirement.
I'm pretty sure I was.
Yeah, you were. I have pictures to prove it.
Yeah. So, in the military, what would you say your experience was like? Was it more positive?
Oh, it's definitely positive. Oh, let me talk about Donald Ullman. He was a Swede. He kind of took me under his wings. He liked me from the first day we met. He kind of took me under his wing. Now, remember, we're in guided missiles where everything's behind lock and key. You can't move. It's not like a normal post. Okay. And there were things that you could not. So we're kind of isolated to the little barracks area. Everything behind chain link fencing, dogs, security systems, and what have you. From the barracks, when we got there, he took me, he showed me the water where the water came from, how it was treated, and so forth, so on. Walked me through the security gate, went to the assembly building, the generator building, the warhead building, the exclusion area, the guard posts. And when we got down into the pits where I was working with missiles, he introduced me to Kenneth Glue. He was from Massachusetts. Kenneth Glue was one of those brainiacs. Brainy. Yeah, knew everything, devour books and whatever. He introduced me to Glue. Between Don and Glue, they taught me everything there was to know about the missiles, nuclear weapons, and what have you. So much so that I was the first PFC in the intercontinental United States that passed the proficiency test for missiles. That's where they paid you an extra $30 a month for knowing your job. Okay. Don was also the one to teach me. I had a fight with a guy, and he was only a Spec 5. Well, he was still technically an NCO. He was an asshole. So at any rate, you had his favorites. They're all over there. Now, we had to service these missiles and these launchers and what have you for an inspection coming. That's really intensive work. And those guys over there, pardon the expression, bullshitting. Well, I was over there on launcher. I did launcher 3 and 4 by myself. And all 5 or 6 of them hadn't even completed one. He came by and said, "Oh, you can go over there and help them guys now." I went, "No, I'm not doing that." He said, I said, "No, take your ass over there." No, they've been sitting there all day and I've done too. So Don walked by. He said, "Come here, let me tell you something." He said, "Long as you're black, don't you ever tell them crackers no." Now, he's white. White as a sheet. He's Swedish. As long as you're black, don't you tell them crackers no. I learned a lot from Don. We stayed friends until he passed.
Something that I loved about you when I was a kid is, one, you were a marksman, right? Is that how you say it when it comes to shooting? Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty important, is it not?
Well, you have 3 levels. Okay, you have marksman, which is the lowest level. That means you just qualified. You out of 100 shots you're supposed to get, you got the minimum. Then you got sharpshooter, which is the middle level, and you have expert at the top. So any weaponry you may use in the military, you have those classifications: marksman, sharpshooter, and expert.
How did your children end up with a bazooka in their closet growing up?
Why would you ask me that?
It's so camera.
We played with it like it was a toy. It was normal for us.
I've been in the guns for a long time. Okay. I was probably the first black man to get a carry permit in the state of, at my age. Let me qualify that. At my age, get a pistol permit. You know, some people like fishing, some people like baseball, football, whatever the case. My sport of choice was guns and shooting. So I went everywhere that had guns, that would talk and got to meet people and whatnot. And I got to know a lot. I became famous in Connecticut for 2 things: the Negro with the guns and the guy with the dogs. So over the state, I got to meet a lot of people. And then I had this friend that had this bazooka. I don't even remember the model. Now, these are one-shot bazookas, not like the Law, which was a one-shot. This was a more sophisticated 3-inch projectile. But you can take those and make them shoot again. Okay. And it's supposed to be impossible to own one because the military has a way of accounting for it. But I had a friend in the right place that he got away with getting one. And I traded him an old dilapidated German Luger for it. I said, "Hey, you want this one? Let me have that." He said, "You can't tell nobody where you got that. We'll both go to jail." So I got this thing. I don't know why I wanted it. It was something nobody else had and couldn't get. So naturally, I just had to have it. I'm taking all this stuff, and this lady saw all of these guns. Now, I'm walking up with gun after gun. Yeah, I had a lot of guns. And then when I walked up there with that bazooka, I know he ain't supposed to. So she called the cops. A black dude got guns, and I got a bazooka. So Bull came, and this is about 5 o'clock in the evening. Bull came up. He said, "Oh, I should have known." I should have known. He said, "Danny, what are you doing with that?" And when a friend of mine gave it to me, "You know you ain't supposed to have that." He said, "Listen, I don't even want to hear it. Get rid of it. When I come back, you better not have it." I'm like, damn. Well, all righty then. So I had a friend, what was his name? Started with an S. He was an old master sergeant. No, he was a first sergeant that was in the infantry in New Haven, the 102nd Infantry. And he was opening up a infantry museum. So I donated it to the museum. And that's pretty much it on the bazooka.
Okay. Tell me, how did you get to Newnan, Georgia?
In 2005, I retired from the military. 40 years, 2 months, and 20-something days. My son, who lives in Newnan, Georgia also, said, "Dad, what are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm not sure." "Well, I think you ought to come to Georgia." I went, "Hell no." Shit down there I want. So he said, "Well, listen, come down, look around, and make your decision based on that." So I came down, loved the community, quiet, don't have to lock your doors. I never lock my doors. I never take the keys out of the car. You know, that's something that most people don't experience. So I came down and I said, "Well, okay, I think I could tolerate this." So he said, "Look, I got 2 houses. You can pick either one you want." Okay. So he bought a house around the corner from where he lived. It had the 3 acres that I like. I like a lot of land. It had the 3 acres, but the house needed more work than I was willing to put into it. Then he said, "I'm going to show you the one that I like, which is around the corner from where he lived." So we went to 724, and I went, "It's a poor man's house, but it's better than what I got." I like the luxury. I always kind of wanted the luxury that he was living in. But at the same time, it fit my needs. And the only thing that really sold me on the house was the garage. So I could put all of my tools. I could put my carpenter tools, put my motorcycle, the MG. So that sold it for me. So it's a comfortable home. I moved down August the 1st of 2005, and I've been there ever since.
We're moving into fatherhood now.
Okay.
When was Gary born?
July the 6th, 1964.
What was it like becoming a dad?
Wow. You know, words can't really explain how I felt. Okay. Hearing that she was pregnant, when most people would be saying, "Oh my God, I was only 17. 17, somewhere in there, young, too damn young to be having a kid." But I wanted something to love. Again, it goes back to the lack of love. And the most beautiful thing is when he was born, I looked at him, and I had this favorite nephew from my sister Thelma that died in the fire. And I used to take him everywhere. When I used to deliver beer, he'd be sitting on him with his arm around my neck. He rode with me every day until his mother would come get him. After she'd get after work, she'd come get him. And Gary looked just like him. And I would just look and go, "Oh, wow." There's nothing like fatherhood, because now I have a child, something I can love, something can love me back. That's finally feel like a man. You know, he validated me.
Did you ever imagine having this many kids?
Hell no. I needed a different hobby. I don't regret one. I mean, if you never have had the feeling of true love that can only be shared from a child and a parent, there is no money, no gold, no car, no diamonds, nothing can compare to how my kids, my grandkids, and my great make me feel. Nothing. If I have to trade every worldly thing, as long as I got my kids and the love of that's all that matters to me. That brings me the most excitement. I want to make sure I didn't make the mistakes that I thought my parents made with me. I prioritize my young girls, my son, to be a man, to be a respectable man and a woman. Not a black man, not a black woman, to be a I didn't race them with race.
Do you think your parenting changed over time? Like with Gary, did you parent Gary a little bit differently than you did with Marco, or Ronnie being one of our oldest sisters to me?
Gary brought how I raised him to my attention on numerous occasions. Okay. Gary was never none of my kids has ever been told no. Okay. I gave him options. You know, you got chocolate or vanilla. Which one do you want? You can only have one. You ain't going to get them both. Okay. So that was a way of programming them toward the end that you always have a choice. I always gave them a choice. Okay. When Marco came on the scene, okay, I got a little bit more liberal in how I thought, and Gary resented it. How can you make... Okay. Once I met Marco's sister-in-law, Faz, and I saw pure magic. She got two little boys, and they're heavy into karate. Man, when they throw punches, and they are not pulling them at all. And they're crying, and the older, she said, why would you hit him? We don't do that in this family. She never raised her voice, and you would think that she took their birthday away from him. I said, oh my God, I've never seen nothing like this before in my life. Never raised her. I wished I had the ability to communicate like that. So much so that I noticed Marco, if you notice how he handles Amora, he never raises his voice. And I'm going, I wished I could do that. That's just freaking amazing. So to be able to think that I knew it all and be able to see a whole different side, that's amazing stuff. Life is an ongoing thing. Things changes. I mean, look, we had an old phone, now we got cell phones, and so your parenting changes too.
What would you say was the hardest part about raising kids?
I can't say I had a hard part. I didn't encounter that. Somebody else can. I didn't encounter that.
Have you ever had any heartbreaking moments when it comes to being a dad?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest was Nicole. She was one of the most beautiful things anybody ever laid in. That nice, beautiful hair, skin, complexion, so forth, so on. And 30, 60 days, I'm not sure. Got up one morning, go to work, and I always check the crib. That morning, I didn't check the crib. But by the time I got to work from New Haven to Stratford, your mom had said, meet me at the hospital. Something's wrong with Nikki. So I get there, and people are running around and so forth, so on, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Ain't nobody saying shit. And then the hours go by, and then they took her upstairs to intensive care. And I see my beautiful baby. Don't look nothing. She looked like a looked like a sponge that had just been soaked in water. She had no shape. Her body was swollen. It had no shape, and all these switches and valves and tubes and shit was going everywhere. And I said, what's wrong? We don't know. So that went on for approximately 3 days. And then the doctor finally came to me, and he said, Mr. Taylor, I said, what if she lives through the night? If she lives through the night, she will be severely retarded. I just did not comprehend after that. And then I heard him say, I recommend that you place her. And I said, I can't do that.
What does that mean?
Give her up.
Wow.
Put her in an institution.
Wow.
Okay. And I said, I can't do that. Then, I guess there was some hours later, the big grand poobah came down, whoever he was, and said, Mr. Taylor, we've done everything that we can. There's nothing else that we can do for this in the Lord's hands. I said, well, when can I take her home? So you can't take her home until you learn to slide the tube down through her nose into her stomach, and that we could feed her, because she can't, no suckling. Okay. And you sure you can do that? I'm sure. I could just show me how. So a couple of attempts, they said, he's going to be fine. Brought her home. And well, let's just say I never gave up. Okay? And you heard me say, the Lord don't give you no more you can handle? I can attest to that. And everybody knew I wasn't religious for the long, still ain't. I got a wobbly walk. But I knew this. He don't give you no more than you can handle. So that's so much that has happened to me that affected how I feel about life, God, family. Yeah, enough about that.
What was the best part about raising us kids?
Never a dull moment.
That's for sure.
Never a dull moment.
I'm going to pick out 3 names. You don't notice we didn't do this beforehand. And you could just tell a quick story about each one of them. Just a favorite moment that you had. Okay. Here we go. Marco.
Marco was a very, very intelligent child. Good grades. But that boy loved to push me right up to my edge where I'm about to snap. And when I'm about to go up, he ease off with that shit-eating grin on his face. And I said, nigga, one of these days I'm going to get you. One of these days I'm going to get you. My favorite thing is whatever I did while I was working on the motorcycle, while I was working on the MG, while I was working on the car, if I was working at the army. At 6 years old, he's driving a Bobcat. Dad, can I drive the Bobcat? Went over, showed him how to. He loading the buckets up after a gun show, throwing all the trash, and my little 6-year-old loading the Bobcat. The Bobcat, the big M4T6 forklift. That thing is huge. 6-wheel got the craft. My 6-year-old, he can barely touch it. He's standing up there. That's what I remember about Mark. He had a can-do attitude. Very, very smart. He know what I'm going to do before I do it. And he loves to prove me wrong. He will walk 10 miles to see me make a mistake. I remember one time putting some locks on the door. And I was redoing all the locks and what have you. And you know how you get a habit. I do things so fast and what that sometimes, you know, when you think you're good, you do stupid shit. I forgot to turn the bolt. I turned it in the wrong direction. And the door ain't freaking working. You look for that. What in the world? Mark, I told you we're doing it. So he sits down and tells people how he had to show me. He will walk 10 miles to catch me. If I say left, he says right. If I say up, he says down. If I say in, he says out. Marco, man, that's my man. I do anything with him. But if I got a refrigerator, I can say I'm going, he will say, going down, going up. He know what I'm going to do before I do it. And he established that perfection that it has to be done perfect. That's my boy.
Gary.
The preacher. Boy comes to me at 16 years old, I'm going to be a preacher. Bullshit. And that was my reaction. His dad, I want to be a preacher. Here's a 15, 16-year-old, fine basketball side, great athlete, going to school in a three-piece suit and a Bible under his arm. Yeah, I wasn't feeling that at all. Not. I said, that's your mama. That ain't got nothing to do with you. You're too young to be taking on that. So he's 18, and he moves in with me. He had the downstairs apartment. I had a 3-family house. He was, Dad, I want the apartment. I said, nigga, you got a job? How you gonna pay rent? So anyway, I gave him the downstairs apartment, and he got it all set up and what have you. And we were having a conversation. He said, Dad, look, this is what I want to do in life. This is my calling. Okay. And I just looked in his eyes and I could see the intensity that he was trying to convey. This is real. And I looked and just promised me one thing then. You will never backslide and never have the double standard that I was accustomed to seeing. And to this day, he's never disappointed me. Okay?
Crystal.
Oh, little Nan Taylor. Ain't no words for her. She's got a can-do attitude. If a man can do it, I can do it. She played football. She tried to play basketball. She boxed in the Coast Guard Academy. She broke the Coast Guard men, with those sailing rafts that they had. Women weren't allowed. They would discourage women from joining that little group. And when they would go out, you got to tip these sailboats over and set them back up and reset them. But that's a crew of 2. She was by herself. I was so proud of Crystal. I ain't no words for Crystal. When she decides she want to do something, she does it. She don't spend a lot. There's no great fanfare when she wants to do something. She does it and excels at everything that she does. And that little Crystal that she's raising, Zoe, is going to be just like her mom. And guess what? She's boxing now too.
What is one good thing that you can share about the mother of each of your children? Barbara, what would you like to say about her?
I remember 2 things positive. The cordon bleu was the first meal that I ever ate. I actually ate, because usually I would. Okay? The other one is, no matter what we did, she wanted to be the first Negroes to do it. So, I bought land when I was 19. I built a house when I was 21. So we were the first young individuals in that community that had built it. A lot of them own homes, but nobody's built one from scratch. We're first Negroes, and we'll be the first to build our house. So that was her thing, being the first.
So how about Vicky?
In the military, I was working in supply at that time. In a supply sergeant's capacity. So I was responsible for everything, weapons, because you name it. If it was on the books anywhere and you used it, I was responsible for issuing it and so forth, so on. And we had annual audits. They're very, very detailed. Vicky was a whiz with numbers. You could numbers, and she can count on her head faster than you can get an accountant do on a adding machine. She was good with numbers. I remember her for that and her ability to bake.
How about Lisa?
Lisa has, over time, become my best friend. I think we've always been friends. For her. She's always been able to rely on me, and I was always able to rely on her. The communication wasn't always the best. However, if I need something, I know that Lisa would be here today as I would be with her. When she had her cancer, experience. My son called me and look, I'm gonna quit my job. I said, you're not gonna quit your job. Well, who's gonna? You're not gonna quit your job. To this, your job is your friend. Okay, if you need help with your mother, I will be there. I will come there and I'll stay, do whatever we have to do until she's better. Okay, but do not quit your job. Okay. I went there, and of course, I only had one incident. Lisa is she's spicy. When Lisa decides she's going to do something, that's what all of my kids. You know which demon's head's going to be sticking up, the Meade side or the Taylor side. But either one, there's a problem. So I said, Lisa, when you're ready to go downstairs, let me know. So I think I ran to the store real quick to get some broccoli straw. And I brought it back, and she's downstairs grinning. I went, how did you get down here? I walked down. I went, how am I? I'm supposed to be here to give my son peace of mind, security, and to help you. He trusts me with his mother, and you walk down the steps or something. How am I going to explain that with Dad? Where were you? Don't you take your cracker ass down them damn. And she just. Lisa decided she wanted to go to cosmetology classes. They had a exam that she had to. It was a 3-hour exam, and so she sat down and she said to the lady when she got the exam, she said, "If I finish, can I go home?" The lady said, "You won't finish that. You won't finish." Just blew it out. Lisa sat down. 20, 30 minutes, she was done. A scheduled 3-hour exam. 20 or 30 minutes, she was done. So the lady said, is there anything wrong? She said, I'm done. She said, you can't be. She said, I'm done. Lady, give me that. Sit down there and scored it immediately. She missed 2 questions. 2 questions. And Vicky and Lisa argued with themselves. Well, this can be interpreted. So she wanted to take one of Lisa 44, and she gave her credit for one of the 2. So now she only missed 1. She got the wit. All of them Meads got wits. Raymond, Lisa, June, her sister. I'd have to read some 2 or 3 times to get it. They read the one, Marco, chisel and granite. So you don't forget her very easy. But yeah, we're really good friends.
And Sue.
I always thought I was perfect in every way. However, through my experiences, I became very mistrusting. I didn't trust nothing. I just did not trust anybody. They educated me, graduated me, and gave me my diploma. You heard this 80-20% thing? The only thing Sue wanted to do was take care of Dan Taylor and his kids. Now, Dan Taylor has some serious inbred issues, okay? And I got in a lot of trouble just being Dan Taylor, okay? Stupid shit. Thought, I ain't the brightest bulb on the tree either. Sue had one flaw. Only thing she wanted to do was take care of Dan Taylor and his kids, okay? I don't know of any woman that would chase a man for 30 years. That's pretty much what she did. She was always there. On again, off again. We'll be fighting. Bring me my kids. All of my kids. That's the 3 I got and the 2 she got. And when I came back from the military maneuvers or whatever the case may be, she'd get my kids' clothes. Now get out. No one has done for me what she had did. Okay? I was so stupid that I could have been a lot happier for a lot of years had I not been so blind. I'd walk past her picture and apologize many, many times for having waited so long. Because we finally got married. And how that happened, I had come back, jumped on my motorcycle, said, I got to see Sue. I drove 16 hours on a motorcycle to Connecticut from Georgia. Got through the door. Sue was at her mom's. I decided to take a trip down there to surprise her. And her mom said, Danny, can I talk to you for a moment? I said, sure. She said, you're the only man that my Susie ever loved. I hope that I can see you two get married before I die. It was on a Saturday. And I said, how's tomorrow? And Sue went, stayed.
All right.
Oh, okay. We get married. Finally. And wow, everything's going well. A lot of things that Sue and I did everything. If I was working on the car, if I was doing the brakes on one side of the car, she was on the other side. If I'm painting in the house, she's painting. No matter what I would do, she'd work alongside of me. If I was picking up grains of sand on the beach, she'd be picking up a grain of sand with me. We did everything together. So when she finally decided, I want to come home, because I was trying to get her to stay at Yale so she'd get vested right, so she'd be able to draw some retirement. Okay. And she only had like a year or two to do it. Look, stay up there, get that retirement benefit. It'll help. And I get to go, I want to come home. Well, all right. So we get there and kind of falling into a routine. And I was kind of used to being alone, because she's been in Connecticut. So she said, I'm going to fix dinner now. I'm sitting there watching Fox News. And she said, I'm fixing dinner now. I said, okay. She go in the kitchen. She's in there for about 10 or 15 minutes. She come back and sit down. She waited for a few minutes. I'm going to go finish now. I said, okay. Go over to the kitchen. I didn't get up. She came because I didn't realize. Anytime we did everything together. If she's cooking, I'm on the stove, or vice versa. So she was so accustomed. If I ain't in the kitchen, she's coming out until I go in the kitchen. So that was kind of, I remember one, wow, that we did that was a perfect example. And then on the downside of that is, of course, she got cancer. It moved very, very fast between the time she was diagnosed and the time that she passed was just a few months. And I always felt guilty because I freaking sat back and I wasted all of those years. She did everything right. I didn't want to get another divorce. I didn't want to do this. And we finally get together. I'm happy. All of my dreams has been met. And I often think I wasted too many years. She was the best thing that ever happened to me. I haven't even really explained this to the kids. They don't know. She was there. I had no needs that weren't taken care of. And that feeling that I always wanted to be. I mean, we look like chimpanzees. We're sitting on the couch, she's grooming. She's popping zits or doing my toenails or doing my fingernails or vice versa. We did everything. It's hard to explain to someone if they haven't experienced a woman like that.
How do you feel about getting older?
Listen, I have been blessed. I'm 80 years old. I'm above ground. I'm able to walk. I have some small issues, and I've outlived most of my friends. So when I turn around, I look in the mirror and go, I don't look bad for an 80-year-old. I have been truly blessed. I don't have too many friends left. I outlived them all. So God is good.
What is the top piece of advice that you would give your 18-year-old self?
Don't tell people what you want to do. Just do it. Because when you share your dreams and your ambitions, people tell you 1,000 reasons why you can't do it and or accomplish it. Don't share your dreams. Just do it. And when you find someone that thinks like you, that have a like thought process, then you share. But hold your dreams to yourself until you find the right person.
What would you say your favorite song of all time is? I know there's a few, but pick one of them that you love the most.
There's so many. Well, let me just go on and pick. Let me pick one. Sexual Healing.
Well, amen. Especially when they get the feeling.
I was going back to Johnny Ace, Pledging My Love. That's before your time. I'm sure you won't even remember that. Otis Redding, Dock of the Bay.
Oh, that's one of my favorites to sing.
I Heard Church Bells Ring. There are many, 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 you know.
Okay, what would you say is your favorite meal of all time?
Paella!
Is it really?
Yes.
For real?
Why do you think I'm always asking?
Okay. Besides paella.
Steak.
That is true.
Steak and salad.
Okay.
And a beef.
You've been making lots of steaks growing up. Looking back, what are you most proud of?
Looking back, what I am most proud of? That I was able to live long enough to see my kids have kids. That's a beautiful thing. And I want to sit down and teach them all how to aggravate their parents. So they all aggravated me. My children are everything to me. I can't say it enough.
What would you want them, if they're talking about you years down the road, like way years down the road, what would you want them to say?
That they can talk to me about everything. You can talk to me about anything. But that's been a goal. I hope that's what I would want to hear, that I could talk to him about anything.
What's the most important lesson that life has taught you?
What's the most important lesson? Wow. This is kind of a spiritual thing because I never really had. And put your faith in God. Seek God. Okay? I can't say that enough. And get into His Word. I find it a little difficult to get into His Word. Okay? You have to seek Him in order to understand His purpose for you. And I've never had God first. Never. And just seek God. There's some other words, but it'll come later, maybe somewhere down I could go back, but that's it, really.
1, 2, 3.
Well, a red went and bought himself a monkey. Bought him at the pawn shop, Roca. Taught that monkey how to guzzle beer, and he taught him how to play stud poker. Last night they were gambling in the kitchen, yeah. The monkey was taking the beating. The monkey said, Red, I'm gonna shoot you dead, 'cause you know damn well you've been cheating. Run, Red, run, 'cause he got your gun
And he's aiming it at your
head. Run, Red, run, 'cause he got your gun and he's aiming it at your head. You better get up and well, you better move your tail before he feels ill full of lead.
Okay. We're going to sing the whole thing.
Okay.
He sings that to all his grandkids when they're born.
I love it.